Around 2 months ago, I made a video about the Spiral Abyss and why it absolutely is terrible. It's just a bad addition to the game in general. It's not the endgame content we're looking for, and I'll explain more of that later. But in that video, I explained why Spiral Abyss sucks, especially during that time with the Wii Nut. And I can say for 100% guarantee, nobody liked the Wii Nut. If you like the Wii Nut, you need help. And you're wrong. If you think you're right, you're not right. You're just wrong. I respect your opinion, but you're wrong. It went underground, you couldn't hit it. When it went above ground, sometimes it flew, you couldn't hit it. You missed a note while it was in the air, or it went underground and you missed the ult. The only Mio mains were rejoicing because they could hit something in the air finally, but even they weren't too happy when it went underground. And no character has an earthquake ability to damage the Wii Nut when it used Dig, because Geo is a dead element. Hoyoverse doesn't want to invest in Geo, instead they invest in Dendro. As we can see how Dendro has more characters than Geo characters, and Geo characters have been out since the beginning of the game. But anyway, why am I making this video? Talking about the Spiral Abyss again? Well, simply, this version Spiral Abyss is also terrible. Now in the previous one, the Wii Nut was just that one enemy that was really annoying, but technically every character could beat it. Sure, some characters are better, those who had front-loaded damage, or do damage within a short period of time, but ultimately you can still do it, right? As long as you have high enough investment. On the other hand, this Spiral Abyss is way more team and character restrictive than the last one. Sure, anything with super high investment that does a lot of damage could technically still beat it, but it's gonna be a much higher investment requirement to do that. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about the first chamber of floor 12, the ones with the shield guys. I forgot what they're called. They're like Abyss Herald Collectors. I forgot what the Cryo one was called. Are they also called Heralds? I don't know. I just called the Herald one, which I think is the Hydra one, Beyblades, and I called the other one Cryo Beyblades because I'm too lazy to memorize their names. Yeah, the first chamber second half has those Herald guys, or you know, the shield. I'll call them shield guys. There's a lot of shield guys, but you know what I mean, right? Those guys have a Hydra shield and a Cryo shield, which means that you're gonna have to bring characters with element types that are super effective against it. So Hydra, you have Dendro, Cryo, which are the premium options against it. Sure, Pyro and Electro could work. And then you have Cryo. Pyro obviously is really good for it. Electro can also work. So, and the other elements technically could work, but it's not that great. And so that leaves you with really restrictive team comps. You're going to probably need a Pyro and either a Cryo or a Dendro. But if you're going to do Pyro and Dendro, well, Origin is kind of on the lower end of reactions. Also, Burning is also on the lower end of reactions, so that's not that great. And so that leaves you with Pyro and Cryo, which works. We have free-to-play teams for that, because Xiangling exists, Bennett exists, and, well, Rosaria exists. You can do that Melt Xiangling team. What happens if you don't have Rosaria or Changyun and your only Cryo unit is Kaya? Well, yeah, good luck. It's gonna be kind of difficult. It's doable still, yeah, but it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard. What happens if you don't have Kaya built because you simply don't like him? You don't play Cryo characters. Yeah, well, too bad. Too bad. You're probably gonna need Cryo. And if you want to do Dendro, well, you're probably gonna have to do a lot of investment into your team. Because remember, it's not just the shields that are the problem. You got to get those guys low enough to go into the shields. And obviously, the faster you make them go into the shields, the more time you have to break them. But you got to damage them a lot too. It just sucks. It sucks. If you want to play your favorite character, well, you can't. It's gonna be impossible if you're not at super giga high investment, because you just don't have the right elements. It's simple as that. And that's a problem. Why is that a problem? You might be thinking, oh yeah, you guys wanted a hard abyss. Yeah, we kind of want a hard abyss, and we mean with the community that likes combat endgame don't really like the abyss. Some people do, that's their taste, but most of us don't really like the abyss simply because it's boring. What we want is repeatable endgame content, and Spiral Abyss isn't that repeatable. It's not fun repeatable. Take Simulated Universe and Honkai Star Rail, and that's repeatable, but it's kind of like a fun repeatable content because you have different paths, so you can play the same characters that you like, but kind of play them in a different way. Or you can use really bad characters, quote unquote bad characters, and make them good, because these path buffs in Star Rail buff your characters so they can become good or take a lot of damage or survive a long time if you're into that, playing 1 hour runs. That's kind of the step in the right direction direction that we want for endgame. Sure, Simulated Universe is not perfect. You know, it's kind of hard to get something perfect. There's obviously going to be stuff that people don't like, stuff people like. It's inevitable. But at least Star Rail takes a step in the right direction. That being said, going back to the main topic of the Spiral Abyss, yes, we like hard content, but this is bad hard content. This doesn't really require skill, it just requires the right team building. And if you don't have the elements, or you don't have the right characters, you're gonna have to try exponentially harder, and we just don't like that. Sure, Genshin is an element-based game, right? You gotta focus on the elements, elemental reactions. Newer or mid-game players who want to challenge the Abyss and might be able to do it with some skill. Even if they're the most skillful player, if they don't have the right characters, sure, they might still be able to do it, but most of the time they're not because they don't have the right characters. What we want from the Spiral Abyss is a full rework, or maybe just delete it outright and implement a new combat endgame. But if that's not an option, what we want from the Spiral Abyss is that we want to add challenging tasks that require mechanics, like you have to hit the boss at the right time or hit the boss during the weakened state. Kind of like the Wii Nut, because you can use a lot of different elements to bring it down, but just not the Wii Nut. The Wolf Lord was pretty cool, but let's not make it geo-restrictive. 2 or 3 different elements, right? It could still be elemental based, doesn't have to be, you could just hit it with anything. I'm pretty sure that people have one of the 3 elements built. What we want is mechanics that focus more on the gameplay and not the characters. Characters should still be good in some situations. I'm not saying that just get rid of character uniqueness, I guess. What I'm saying is that just make it more universal. I like using this example a lot, and I know they're completely different games, but I'm still going to use it because I think you can get something out of it. Souls games, Dark Souls games, Elden Ring, for example, that's the newest one. You can use a lot of different builds and you can still beat the game. If you played Elden Ring before, you'll probably know this, but you can run a magic build, maybe a close range build, maybe a physical damage build, spells only build. You can do a lot of different builds. Bleed build, that was pretty OP. You can do a lot of different builds, but ultimately you can still beat the boss if you have enough skill, right? Sure, some builds were easier to beat certain bosses. When Bleed worked, Bleed was insane, but when Bleed didn't work, you can still beat the boss. It'll take longer, it'll be harder, but you can still beat it with enough skill. And if you never played Elden Ring before, I recommend you play it, but we want more skill-based Spiral Abysses instead of character-based Spiral Abysses. Right, sure, certain characters can make your life easier, but ultimately, if you want to play the character that you like, it's still doable. It'll just require a lot more effort. That's what I'm trying to say, yeah. I hope you understand. That's just me going on a rant. I hope you enjoyed me talking about the Spiral Abyss and why I hate it so much. What makes you qualified for talking about it? Are you a theory crafter? No, I'm not a theory crafter, but I did clear the Abyss, and I went through all that pain just so I can make this video for you guys. Yeah, so that's why you should subscribe. Okay, bye-bye. Have a good day, or night, or lunch, or whatever it is for you. Just have a good time. Okay, bye-bye.